When Janelle Carter is forced into an arranged marriage with Kwaim Akoy, a mysterious Ghanaian man with a dangerous past, she fights to escape. But as secrets unravel, betrayal lurks in the shadows, and her obsessive ex resurfaces. She realizes Kwaim might be the only one who can save her. Will love conquer lies, or will their pasts destroy them? Watch till the end to find out. If this is your first time of coming across the channel, please support with your subscription. It is free. Likes and share. It means the world to us. It will help with our growth. Janelle Carter sat in her sleek Los Angeles penthouse, sipping a glass of wine as the city lights glittered in the distance. At 29, she had built an empire from the ground up, her successful fashion business, an enviable social circle, and complete independence. She was the embodiment of the modern Black American woman, confident, self-sufficient, and uninterested in anything that threatened her freedom. That's why when her mother Vivian Carter dropped the bombshell, it felt like a cruel joke. "You're getting married, Janelle. I have chosen a husband for you," Vivian had said, her voice firm with finality. Janelle nearly choked on her drink. "Excuse me," she snapped, slamming her glass onto the marble counter. Vivian, poised as always, only lifted a brow. "His name is Kwaim Akoy. He's from Ghana. A good man, well-cultured, strong, and ready to be a husband." Janelle laughed bitterly. "Mother, are you hearing yourself? This isn't the 1800s. You can't just marry me off like some auction property." But Vivian wasn't laughing. "You need stability, Janelle. A man who will ground you. You're not getting any younger." That sentence hit her like a slap. Janelle wanted to argue, but she saw the unwavering determination in her mother's eyes. This wasn't just a suggestion. It was a demand. And if there was one thing Janelle knew, it was that when Vivian Carter wanted something, she got it. The following days were a blur. Janelle tried to fight it, but she soon realized that her mother had already set things in motion. Vivian had pulled strings with influential figures, ensuring that Kwaim, a complete stranger from a different world, would be legally bound to her daughter. Janelle researched him out of desperation, expecting to find something that would disqualify him. But Kwaim Akoy was practically spotless, humble beginnings in Ghana, a hard-working man, educated, well-spoken in his native tongue but rough around the edges in English. His photos showed a tall, broad-shouldered man with deep, intense eyes. He looked capable, but Janelle didn't care. She didn't need capable. She needed choice, but that choice was stolen from her the moment the marriage license was signed on her behalf. When the day came for her to meet him in person, Janelle's stomach twisted with rage. The private jet arranged by her mother was due to land in LA within the hour. She stood at the airport, arms crossed, heels clicking against the cold floor, when a deep voice spoke behind her. "Janelle Carter." Slowly, she turned, and there he was, Kwaim Akoy, the man she was now legally bound to. The moment Janelle's eyes locked with Kwaim's, she felt the instant urge to walk away. He was taller than she expected, his dark skin smooth, his presence commanding. He held himself with a quiet confidence, one that she found irritating rather than attractive. Kwaim was smiling slightly, but there was a look in his eyes that unsettled her. It wasn't admiration or excitement. It was something else, something unreadable. "You're even more beautiful in person," he said, his accent thick but clear. Janelle scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Save it. I don't need the sweet talk," she muttered, turning on her heel. Kwaim blinked, his smile faltering slightly, but he didn't look offended. Instead, he nodded as if he had expected this reaction. "I know you don't want this," he said, falling into step beside her. "Neither do I." That made Janelle pause. She turned to him, frowning. "Then why are you here?" she demanded. He exhaled slowly, adjusting the strap of his duffel bag. Because duty is not always about want. It is about honor. Janelle laughed humorlessly. Spare me the wisdom. This isn't about honor. This is about control, and I refuse to be controlled. The ride home was suffocating. Janelle sat as far from Kwaim as possible in the back seat of the luxury car, arms crossed tightly. Vivian had made arrangements for them to stay in the same house, her house, until further notice. The thought of sharing a space with him made Janelle's skin crawl. The moment they arrived, she turned to him with a sharp glare. Let's get one thing straight. I don't love you. I don't want to love you. And if you think for 1 second that I will play housewife, you're sadly mistaken. Kwaim studied her for a long moment, then simply nodded. Understood. His lack of reaction frustrated her even more. She wanted him to be angry, to argue, but he didn't. Instead, he calmly picked up his bags and walked inside, as if he belonged there. Janelle clenched her fists. If he thought she was going to make this easy, he was dead wrong. Janelle avoided him for the first few days, treating him like a guest who overstayed his welcome. But the thing that annoyed her the most? He didn't demand anything. He didn't question her cold attitude or make unnecessary advances. He cooked his own meals, cleaned up after himself, and even fixed the broken cabinet in the kitchen that she had been meaning to call someone for. He was disciplined, and that frustrated her even more. She expected him to be needy, to complain about how she wasn't fulfilling her role as a wife. But he didn't. One evening, after an exhausting day at work, she walked into the house only to be hit with the scent of something rich, flavorful, and foreign. She followed the smell to the kitchen, where Kwaim stood over the stove stirring a thick, reddish stew. What are you doing? She asked sharply. He glanced at her, unfazed by her tone. Cooking. In my kitchen, she demanded. Our kitchen, he corrected calmly. Would you like to try some? She nearly laughed. No. I don't eat, whatever that is. He smirked slightly. You might like it if you try. She huffed, grabbing a bottle of water from the fridge. I'll pass. He didn't argue, just continued cooking. But as Janelle walked away, she couldn't help but glance back. Maybe just one bite wouldn't hurt. The next morning, she found herself staring at her reflection in the mirror, replaying last night's dinner. Against her better judgment, she had given in and tasted the meal, and it was delicious. She hated to admit it, but Kwaim could cook. And not just cook, he could really cook. But that didn't change anything. He was still an unwanted husband, still a stranger. She shook her head and grabbed her keys, determined to keep her distance. But when she walked into the living room, she found him fixing the leak in the ceiling, shirtless. For a brief second, she froze, his back muscles flexed as he worked, his skin glistening slightly from the morning sun. Damn. She shook the thought away and cleared her throat. Why are you still here? She blurted. He turned to her, raising a brow. Because I am your husband. Janelle swallowed hard, annoyed by how his voice sent a shiver down her spine. This was a disaster. Janelle had been in plenty of relationships before, but none had tested her patience the way Kwaim did. Every little thing about him annoyed her, his insistence on waking up at dawn to pray, the way he refused to eat processed food, his habit of addressing her formally as my wife in public, as though she were some ancient queen. One evening, as she scrolled through her phone on the couch, Kwaim walked into the living room, his brows furrowed. Janelle, we need to talk. She exhaled loudly, already irritated. About what now? He crossed his arms. Your mother invited her friends for dinner tomorrow. She expects us to be there, as a couple. Janelle scoffed. Then tell her I'm busy. His jaw tightened, and for the first time, she saw a flicker of frustration in his eyes. You may not respect this marriage, but at least respect your mother. She has expectations. Janelle stood, glaring. Don't you dare lecture me about respect. You don't know me. You don't know my life. He stepped closer, his presence towering. Then help me understand, he said, voice calm but firm. Or are you just afraid? The challenge in his tone sent heat rushing through her. Janelle refused to back down. Afraid of what? She shot back. He studied her for a moment, then smirked. Afraid that if you stop fighting, you might actually like being my wife. The next evening, Janelle found herself in a deep red dress, standing stiffly beside Quaim at the dinner table. Vivian Carter's friends, all wealthy, polished women, gushed over Quaim. Such a well-mannered man, one of them said. Janelle, you're lucky. Janelle forced a smile, her fingers gripping her fork like a weapon. Lucky. She was trapped. However, Quaim played his role effortlessly. He served her food, laughed at her mother's stories, and even engaged in deep conversation about African traditions. But when one of the women leaned in and asked him about his past in Ghana, a shadow flickered in his expression. That's not important, he said quickly. Janelle noticed, and for the first time, instead of feeling frustrated, she felt curious. What was Quaim hiding? Janelle's curiosity grew over the next few days. She watched Quaim more closely, picking up on small things, the way he avoided phone calls from unknown numbers, the way his jaw clenched when certain topics were mentioned. Something wasn't adding up. One evening, as she walked past his room, she heard him speaking urgently in Twi, his native language. She paused, listening. I told you not to call me, he said, his voice low and tense. No, I can't send money now. Stop asking. Then a long silence. Finally, he sighed. Fine. I'll handle it. Janelle frowned. Handle what? Later that night, she confronted him in the kitchen. Who were you talking to? She asked. Washing dishes, he didn't look up. No one important. Liar, she shot back. You're hiding something. Quaim finally turned to face her, his expression unreadable. You don't trust me. Should I? Janelle countered. He stepped closer, his gaze piercing. This marriage was forced on both of us. But that doesn't mean we have to be enemies. Janelle laughed coldly. Oh, please. You act like some noble African prince, but I see through you. You're hiding something, Quaim. His expression darkened. And what about you, Janelle? You think I don't see your secrets? The way you flinch when someone mentions love. The way you push people away. You think you're so different from me, but you're not. Janelle's chest tightened, but she masked it with anger. Stay out of my business. Then stay out of mine, Quaim said, walking past her. That night, for the first time, Janelle realized she wasn't just angry at him. She was intrigued. Vivian Carter sat in her private study, flipping through old letters. She had orchestrated Janelle's marriage with precision, but she knew the real reason was one she could never reveal. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. It was Quaim. Mrs. Carter, he greeted, his voice polite but firm. We need to talk. Vivian smiled, gesturing for him to sit. I assume Janelle is making things difficult. He hesitated. She's strong-willed. Vivian laughed. That's an understatement. Then she leaned forward. But you need to be patient with her. This marriage isn't just about you two. It's about family. About legacy. His expression hardened. And what about my past? You knew everything, and yet you still chose me. Vivian's smile didn't waver. Because I believe in redemption. Don't forget that. Meanwhile, Janelle was in her bedroom, scrolling through an old photo album. She stopped at a picture of her ex-boyfriend, Jason Porter. A sharp pain shot through her chest. Jason had been the biggest mistake of her life, a manipulative man who had shattered her trust. She had promised never to let another man control her again. And yet, why was she beginning to care about what Kwame thought? Shaking her head, she shut the album. She wouldn't make the same mistake twice. Janelle's peaceful evening was interrupted by a text message that sent her heart racing. "Miss me, babe." The message was from Jason. Her breath caught in her throat. He was the last person she wanted to hear from. Before she could block the number, another text came in. "I hear you're married now." Poor guy. He has no idea what he's in for. Janelle's fingers trembled as she gripped her phone. No, no, no. Jason was supposed to be gone. Out of her life forever. Across the house, Kwame noticed the change in Janelle's behavior. She was jumpy, distracted, and unusually quiet at dinner. "Is something wrong?" he asked. Janelle hesitated, then shook her head. "No." But Kwame wasn't convinced. That night, as she lay in bed, her mind spun with memories of Jason. The lies, the manipulation, the heartbreak. She wouldn't go through that again. But deep down, she knew Jason wasn't done with her. Not yet. The next morning, as Kwame stepped outside to take a walk, he found an envelope on the doorstep. No return address, just his name. Frowning, he opened it. Inside was a single note: "You don't belong here. Leave before it's too late." His stomach twisted. He scanned the street, but no one was there. Who sent this? And what did they know about him? Janelle, still shaken from Jason's message, noticed Kwame looking unsettled. "What's wrong?" she asked. He quickly crumpled the note. "Nothing." But she wasn't convinced. And for the first time, a terrifying thought crossed her mind: what if Kwame wasn't the only one keeping secrets? Vivian Carter watched from her study as Janelle and Kwame silently moved around each other in the house. She could sense the growing tension between them. But she also saw something else: curiosity. Janelle was fighting her feelings. And Kwame, despite his composed exterior, was watching her just as closely. It was all playing out exactly how Vivian intended. She picked up her phone and dialed a private number. "Everything is in motion," she said. A deep voice on the other end responded. "And does he suspect?" Vivian's lips curled into a smirk. "Kwame has no idea why I really chose him." She ended the call and exhaled deeply. The past was beginning to creep back, and soon Janelle would learn the truth. But she had to be careful, because if Kwame ever found out what she had done, everything could fall apart. Meanwhile, Kwame sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the crumpled warning note in his hand. The message was clear: someone knew about his past. His fingers tightened around the paper as memories of Gunna flashed through his mind. He had worked hard to bury those years, to leave them behind. But someone was trying to pull him back. And Janelle, his fiery, complicated wife, was getting closer to uncovering things he wasn't ready to explain. He needed to be careful. He needed to make sure she never found out who he truly was, before this marriage turned into something real. Because if she did, she would never forgive him. Janelle lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling. She hated the way Kwame got under her skin. He wasn't loud or pushy like the men she was used to. He was patient, unshaken, and that, more than anything, frustrated her. She wanted him to fight back, to react. Instead, he was steady, almost unmovable. She turned to her side, sighing. Maybe she was wrong about him. Maybe he wasn't the enemy. The next morning, she stepped into the kitchen and found Kwame making breakfast. His muscles flexed as he flipped pancakes, his expression focused. Janelle swallowed hard, quickly looking away. "You're cooking again," she muttered. He turned, a small smirk on his lips. "Someone has to eat." She rolled her eyes but took a seat. When he slid a plate in front of her, she hesitated before picking up a fork. The first bite melted in her mouth, and she hated how much she liked it. "Not bad," she admitted. He chuckled. "I'll take that as a compliment." Their eyes met for a brief second, just a flicker of something unspoken. But Janelle looked away before it could mean anything. Janelle had spent the last few days ignoring Jason's texts. But when she arrived at her office that morning, she found a single red rose sitting on her desk. Her stomach dropped. Attached to it was a note, "Ignoring me won't make me disappear." She snatched the note and crumpled it in her fist. How did he even know where she worked? Meanwhile, Jason sat in a dimly lit lounge, sipping his drink. He wasn't done with Janelle. Not by a long shot. He had spent too much time grooming her, making her dependent on him, only for her to throw it all away. And now she was married to some African nobody, Kwame. That wouldn't do. He picked up his phone and made a call. "I want everything on Kwame. Find out who he really is." If Kwame thought he could take Janelle away from him, he was dead wrong. Nia Thompson, Janelle's best friend, had never been the type to let things slide. Something about Kwame didn't sit right with her. He was too calm, too careful. And Janelle, despite her constant complaining, had stopped talking about leaving. That meant something was shifting. Nia didn't like it. That afternoon, she invited Janelle for drinks. "You ever wonder if Kwame is hiding something?" she asked casually. Janelle frowned, sipping her martini. "What are you talking about?" Nia leaned in. "I did some digging. He left Ghana suddenly. No explanation, no family ties, just vanished." Janelle laughed dryly. "So maybe he wanted a fresh start. Or maybe he's running from something." Nia's voice was serious. Janelle hesitated, her mind flashing back to the warning note Kwame had received. What if Nia was right? That evening, Janelle found Kwame sitting outside, staring at the city skyline. She hesitated before stepping onto the patio. "You okay?" she asked. He glanced at her, surprised by her concern. "I'm fine." But she didn't believe him. She sat beside him, folding her arms. "What's your story, Kwame?" He looked at her cautiously. "Why do you ask?" "Because you don't talk about yourself. It's like you just appeared." He exhaled slowly, staring ahead. "We all have pasts, Janelle. Some heavier than others." Janelle studied him for a moment. "You don't have to be perfect, you know. I don't care about your past." He turned to her then, his eyes dark and unreadable. "You say that now," he murmured, "but some pasts have a way of catching up." Janelle's stomach tightened. For the first time, she realized something. She wasn't just curious about Kwame. She was afraid of what she might find. Back in Ghana, a man sat in a dimly lit office flipping through an old photograph. His name was Uncle Kojo, and he had spent the last 2 years making sure Kwame never returned. But now, it seemed the past was catching up. He picked up his phone and dialed a number. "We have a problem," he said coldly. "He's drawing too much attention." Meanwhile, Kwame received a call from a blocked number. He hesitated before answering. A deep voice filled the line. "You should have stayed gone." His grip tightened on the phone. "And you should have stayed silent." The caller chuckled darkly. "You know that's not possible." The line went dead. Kwame closed his eyes briefly. His past was no longer staying in the shadows. And Janelle, she was getting too close to the truth. Janelle had started piecing things together. Kwame was always cautious, always avoiding personal questions. That night, she decided to test him. She pulled out her laptop and typed his name into a search engine. Nothing. No history, no social media, no records before 3 years ago. That was impossible. The next morning, she confronted him. Who are you really? She demanded. Kwame looked at her sharply. What? Janelle held up her phone. I searched your name. There's nothing. No past, no records. Who the hell am I married to? Kwame's expression darkened. Stay out of this, Janelle. Or what? She shot back. You'll disappear just like you did before? For the first time, Kwame lost his composure. Drop it, he snapped. Janelle flinched. That was when she knew, Kwame wasn't just keeping secrets. He was hiding from something dangerous. Janelle paced the length of her bedroom, her mind spiraling into old memories she had tried to bury. Jason had been her worst mistake. He wasn't just a manipulative ex, he had broken her in ways she barely survived. The emotional abuse, the gaslighting, the control he had over her life for years. It had taken everything in her to escape him. And now, here he was again, lurking like a shadow from her worst nightmares. Jason's texts weren't just threats. They were warnings. He was coming for her, and she knew from experience that he wouldn't stop until he got what he wanted. Meanwhile, Kwame sat in the living room, gripping his phone with white-knuckled fists. He had barely slept since the threatening call. The ghosts of his past were creeping in. And if he wasn't careful, they would consume everything. Uncle Kojo's warning was clear: stay in the shadows, keep quiet, and don't let anyone dig too deep. But Janelle was already searching, already connecting the dots. If she found out the truth, she wouldn't just hate him, she would fear him. And he couldn't let that happen. The problem was, his past wasn't just a story. It was a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. Vivian Carter had spent a lifetime protecting her daughter, even if Janelle didn't always see it that way. So when she received an anonymous message warning her about Jason's return, she knew she had to act. She arranged a private meeting in a secluded hotel lounge, waiting for him with cold determination. When Jason finally strolled in, his cocky smirk made her blood boil. You should have stayed gone, she said, her voice low and deadly. Jason chuckled, dropping into the seat across from her. And miss all the fun? He taunted. Vivian leaned forward, her eyes sharp. Listen to me, you snake. I know what you did to my daughter. I know how you manipulated her. But if you think you can waltz back into her life and destroy everything I've built for her, you're dead wrong. Jason smirked, sipping his whiskey. Relax, Mrs. Carter. I'm just here to check in on an old friend. Vivian's patience snapped. Stay away from her, Jason, or I will destroy you. Jason's grin widened. I'd love to see you try. The challenge in his voice sent a chill down her spine. He wasn't bluffing. He was dangerous, and she knew it. Kwame thought he had been careful. He had deleted messages, blocked numbers, and avoided questions. But one evening, as Janelle walked past him in the hallway, his phone buzzed on the table. A single text lit up the screen: you can't run forever. Janelle froze. Who's that? She demanded. Kwame quickly grabbed his phone, shoving it into his pocket. No one. Janelle narrowed her eyes. You're lying. He exhaled slowly, tension stiffening his shoulders. Janelle, let it go. But that only made her angrier. No. I won't let it go. You've been hiding something since the day you got here. Who are you really running from? Kwame clenched his jaw. He had spent years perfecting the art of silence, of burying his past deep enough that it couldn't be dug up. But Janelle was relentless. If she kept pushing, she would uncover the truth. And the the truth would ruin everything. His mind raced with a single thought: how much longer could he keep his secrets buried? Janelle was done playing games. That night, after Kwame had gone to bed, she took his phone while he slept. Her heart pounded as she unlocked it, only to find a single saved contact under the name Co. She clicked it, opening a thread of messages that sent a shiver down her spine. She doesn't know who you really are, does she? You have unfinished business back home. If you don't fix it, we will. Janelle's hands shook. What the hell was this? Who was Wayne? And what exactly had he done that people were still hunting him down? Before she could think, the phone was snatched from her hands. She looked up to find Wayne standing over her, his expression unreadable. What are you doing? His voice was low, dangerous. Janelle swallowed hard, gripping the bed sheets. Who are you running from, Wayne? He stared at her, his eyes dark and conflicted. You don't want to know, he said quietly. But Janelle wasn't backing down. Try me. Wayne exhaled sharply, running a hand down his face. I wasn't always a good man, Janelle, he admitted. Before I came here, before this marriage, I did things I'm not proud of. Janelle's blood ran cold. For the first time, she wasn't just curious about Wayne's past. She was terrified of it. For days, Janelle avoided Wayne, her mind spinning with possibilities. Who was he before he came to America? Was he a criminal? A fugitive? The worst part was, she didn't know if she was scared of him, or scared of the fact that despite everything, she still wanted him. She had spent years keeping men at a distance. But Wayne was different. He had forced his way into her life, into her thoughts, and now she couldn't get rid of him. She hated the way her heart still fluttered when he looked at her, the way her stomach tightened when he was near. She hated that she was falling for a man she couldn't even trust. Wayne, on the other hand, was done running. He had spent years trying to escape his past, but Janelle was forcing him to face it. He watched her from across the room, the way she refused to meet his gaze, the way she kept her guard up. He had seen this before. The walls she built around herself, the fear of being vulnerable. And yet despite everything, he wanted her, not just as a wife on paper, but truly. But could love grow between them when so many secrets still stood in the way? He had spent his whole life fighting for survival. Maybe it was time to fight for something else. Maybe it was time to fight for Janelle. Janelle sat on the edge of her bed, staring blankly at the floor. Everything was unraveling faster than she could process. Wayne was just a mystery. He was a danger waiting to happen. And yet, despite every warning sign, every red flag, she couldn't ignore the part of her that still wanted him. That terrified her more than anything. Nia had been right. Wayne wasn't who he said he was. The messages on his phone, his past in Ghana, the warning notes, none of it made sense. And the more she dug, the less she trusted him. She had spent years avoiding toxic men, promising herself she would never fall for lies again. So why was she still here? Why hadn't she packed her bags and left? Downstairs, Wayne sat in the dimly lit living room, his hands clenched together. He knew Janelle was slipping away. She had been avoiding him, dodging his touch, barely looking at him. He should let her go. It would be the safest option. But something inside him refused. He had been running his whole life, and for the first time, he wanted to stop. He wanted Janelle. He wanted this marriage to be real. But the past had a way of poisoning everything. And if she knew the full story, if she knew why he had left Ghana, there would be no saving them. Wayne couldn't take it anymore. He knocked on Janelle's door, his heart hammering. When she opened it, her expression was unreadable, her walls firmly in place. We need to talk, he said, his voice tight. She crossed her arms. About what? The lies? The secrets? He exhaled sharply. About us. Janelle scoffed. There is no us, Wayne. This, whatever this marriage is, was forced on me. And now I find out you've been lying since day one? He ran a frustrated hand over his face. I never lied, he said, his voice low. I never told you the full truth. Janelle's chest tightened. Then tell me now, she challenged. He hesitated, his jaw tensing. I left Ghana because I had to. Because staying there would have gotten me killed. Janelle's breath hitched. What? What did you do? Wayne swallowed hard. I made enemies. Powerful ones. The room felt suffocating. Janelle wanted to push him away, but at the same time, she needed answers. If you're in danger, she whispered, then so am I. He stepped closer, his voice urgent. That's why I need you to trust me, Janelle. Please. Let me fix this before it's too late. But Janelle wasn't sure she had any trust left to give. That night, sleep evaded her. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Wayne's words echoing over and over again. I made enemies. Powerful ones. What did that even mean? Drug lords? Corrupt politicians? Was he a criminal, or just a man caught in something bigger than himself? The next morning, Janelle packed a bag. She needed space. She needed clarity. She needed distance from the whirlwind of feelings Wayne stirred in her. As she walked down the stairs, suitcase in hand, Wayne stood at the bottom. He looked like he hadn't slept either. You're leaving, he said, not asking. I have to, she replied. He nodded, swallowing hard. Okay. But take this. He handed her a small envelope. If anything happens to me, open it. Wayne. I mean it. Only if something happens. And Janelle, he stepped forward, brushing a curl away from her face. I never wanted this life for you. She pulled back slightly. Then why bring me into it? Because the moment I saw you, I thought maybe I had a shot at something real. Janelle's chest tightened. She turned and left without another word. Days passed. She stayed with Nia, who didn't ask questions but offered quiet comfort. But the silence was deafening. The unanswered questions too loud. Every time her phone buzzed, her heart leapt, hoping it was Wayne. But it never was. Until it was. A single text. They found me. She didn't hesitate. She raced back to their apartment, heart thudding in her chest. The door was ajar. Inside, signs of a struggle. Furniture overturned. Blood on the floor. And Wayne, gone. The envelope burned in her pocket. With trembling hands, she opened it. Inside was a flash drive and a handwritten note. If you're reading this, I didn't make it. But you can still end it. Everything you need is on this drive. Take it to Kweku Mensah. He's the only one left I trust. He'll know what to do. The name meant nothing to her. But the mission? It suddenly meant everything. Her heart broke as she realized, this wasn't just about Wayne anymore. This was about finishing what he started. About protecting herself. And maybe, just maybe, about finding a way to love him again, even through the chaos. She took a deep breath. It was time to go to Ghana.